Extraterrestrial life is one of the most curious topics for humanity. According to a survey, 84% of humanity wants this topic to be investigated and explained. So does the extraterrestrial life we are so curious about have religion? Do they have beliefs in gods, prophets, and places of worship like ours? Let's examine this issue through the lens of the three divine religions. The Quran, Islam's holy book, does not directly use the terms aliens or extraterrestrial life. However, its conception of the universe with expressions like levels of heaven and things in the heavens and the earth does not consciously or unconsciously exclude the existence of extraterrestrial beings. Indeed, the ambiguity in some verses leaves room for interpretation. According to the Quran, God created not only the earth, but the entire universe. There's no God but Allah, Lord of the heavens and the earth and everything between them. Maryam 65. This verse indicates that the entire universe is under God's control. The phrase heavens and earth, Arabic as samawati wal ard, frequently used in the Quran, symbolizes the entirety of the universe. If conscious life forms exist in other parts of the universe, this is possible through God's creation. Jinn, non-human, intelligent beings. The Quran directly mentions Jinn, a non-human yet conscious species. Jinn are invisible, intelligent, and responsible beings created from fire. And we created the Jinn before from a smokeless fire. Al-Hayr 27. I created the Jinn and mankind only to worship me. Adhariyat 56. Jinn are an important part of Islamic cosmology and live in different realms. Many Muslim thinkers considering the possibility of aliens, based on such verses, argue that if there are other conscious beings, they are beings created by God, like the Jinn. Seven heavens, the concept of a layered cosmos. The phrase seven heavens appears numerous times in the Quran. We have created above you 7 heavens. An-Naba 12. It is Allah who created the 7 heavens and the like of them from the earth. At-Talaq 12. While the image of a layered heaven here refers to metaphysical realms in classical Islamic commentaries, some modern interpreters interpret it as intergalactic spacetime levels, dimensions, or different habitats, worlds. Is it only the human world? The Quran describes Allah as the Lord of the worlds. Praise be to Allah, the Lord of the worlds. Al-Fatiha 2. The word worlds, Arabic Alamin, with its plural form, is inclusive enough to include not only the human realm, but also the Jinn realm, the animal realm, and even other unknown conscious realms. This verse demonstrates that Islam does not have a solely earthly understanding of creation, prophecy, and universal revelation in Islamic belief. Muhammad is the final prophet, but the Quran states, and indeed, we sent to every nation a messenger. And now 36, the phrase every nation here can be interpreted not only as referring to nations on earth, but also to all forms of existence. If there are conscious beings on other planets, they may have been sent warnings in their own languages. Alien beings are not explicitly mentioned in the Old and New Testaments, the sacred texts of Christianity. However, some narratives and symbolic expressions have been interpreted differently, especially in the modern era. Ezekiel's vision, heavenly vehicles. One of the most debated passages occurs in the first chapter of Ezekiel in the Old Testament. Describing God's glory, Ezekiel says, I saw four-faced beings. Each had 4 wings, and there were creatures turning like a wheel within. A wheel, and they were shining and blazing. Ezekiel 1:4-28. This imagery has been interpreted by some contemporary writers, such as Erich von Däniken, as meaning spaceships or alien vehicles. The terms turning wheels and light-emitting vehicles, in particular, have taken on different meanings in science fiction-oriented readings. However, traditional Christian interpretations consider these passages to be a mystical vision of God, a symbolic narrative, the Nephilim and the sons of God, hybrid beings. The following statement from the book of Genesis has also been associated with aliens. And when the sons of God saw that the daughters of men were beautiful, they took them as wives. And the Nephilim were on the earth in those days and after. Genesis 6:1-4. The phrase sons of God here, according to some interpretations, represents angels and, according to others, divine beings. The Nephilim, on the other hand, are described as giant, semi-divine beings. Modern theories have interpreted these beings as hybrids of extraterrestrial beings and humans. In traditional Christian theology, this passage is a theological narrative of the divine and earthly mingling, but contemporary alternative readings also see these as physical contact or even alien intervention. New Testament and heavenly signs in the final book of the Bible, Revelation, Apocalypse. There are symbols such as great signs to be seen in the heavens, the falling of the stars and the splitting of the sky. And a great sign was seen in heaven, a woman clothed with the sun. And another sign, a scarlet dragon. Revelation 12:1-4. Some of these symbols have been interpreted by some as signs of the arrival of celestial beings or cosmic conflicts. However, in the classical Christian understanding, these are prophetic and metaphorical expressions. The idea of aliens does not explicitly appear in Judaism. However, some passages within the Torah, Old Testament, encompassing the Torah, Psalms, and other texts, have led to different interpretations, as mentioned above in Christianity. The creation narrative, the centrality of the earth. According to Jewish scriptures, God created the world and humans for a specific purpose. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. Genesis 1:1. The creation text is anthropocentric. Humans were given dominion over all living things on earth. Genesis 1:26. This is a reason for some interpreters to remain distant from the idea of aliens. However, expressions such as those in the heavens and the armies of heaven also appear frequently in the Torah. These expressions sometimes represent angels, sometimes stars. However, in Jewish mysticism, Kabbalah, these concepts are considered within a much broader framework of cosmic consciousness, Kabbalah, and cosmic beings. The Jewish mystical tradition of Kabbalah views the universe as a multi-layered system. 10. Divine manifestations, called Sephiro, explain how the energy from God is distributed throughout the universe. In this way of thinking, the physical world is merely a veil, and other beings can exist in other dimensions. Some interpreters of Kabbalah, such as those following Isaac Luria, argue that other conscious creatures or non-human intelligent beings may exist on other planes. However, such interpretations are rare in traditional Jewish literature and are mostly limited to philosophical, metaphorical interpretations. God's heavenly armies. The phrase Yahweh's army appears in some places in the Hebrew Bible as a celestial fighting force. The traditional interpretation identifies these as angels. But alternative interpretations hold that God also commands conscious beings from other realms. The sacred texts of the three Abrahamic religions do not directly identify any beings as alien. However, elements such as Jinn, celestial spheres, and realms in Islam, Ezekiel's vision, the Nephilim, and apocalyptic signs in Christianity, celestial armies in Judaism, and the Kabbalah's multi-layered universe design all contain structures that could suggest to modern readers that alien life is implied in religious texts. What all three religions share is this: the entire universe is God's creation. If other intelligent life exists, they are also included in the divine plan. Therefore, the discovery of alien life is not a shocking issue in these religions, but rather a comprehensive and explainable one when interpreted correctly.